1 week left. If you haven't installed Visual Studio or Visio, you better do it now. Only 1 week left, so you can do any practice. You got only about 3 weeks to do that. I can tell you that one is not easy. So you better actually make sure you wouldn't get stuck just because you couldn't get a syntax right when you do the assignments. There are actually many more things, much more intelligent to worry about in the assignments. And the midterm test will be in 2 weeks. And I will give you a study guide to say what topics you should really focus on. However, you shouldn't wait until next Wednesday to get prepared, to get started on preparing. So I can tell you that all the tutorial videos you will get until today might be on the test, and all the lecture slides, all the supplement notes I posted online. Make sure you actually read them through, and then if you got any questions, just get back to me. So we got only one more office hour session next Wednesday. I can extend it to 2 hours if you need it, so that if you have any questions, you can come by. And for tomorrow's lab session, I'm thinking about maybe there wouldn't be any new exercise for you. So, thank God. Okay, good. So I think we got enough material to be covered already for the test. So I think for tomorrow, I can go over the core concepts that we have covered so far that you must know. That doesn't mean they will be on the test, but it's something you really want to know before you finish the course. Okay, so tomorrow will be maybe some typing for you, but I think it's mainly about answering your questions. So bring your questions tomorrow, and then I can try to explain, maybe do some demos on the computer, and if you need more tutorial videos, I can consider that. Okay? Okay, so I got 3 more for you over the weekend. So 2 on the implementing the iterator pattern. So you should really watch them both. They are very important for your design pattern in the iterator. And also 1 on drawing the diagrams in Visio. So for those of you who haven't got started drawing the diagram, better actually watch the video if you need some help. Okay, so far 13, all of them are required. Possibly another drawing the diagrams in Visio video. That one may not be on the test. But you got to know how to draw by your hands. That's hopefully that's easier than using the tools. Okay, office hour. So I think that for next week, I might extend it to maybe 1 hour and a half or 2 hours. I'll let you know. I will post that on the forum. Yeah. And we have the lab tomorrow. And get started with Visio, please.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Why the only office hour left is next Wednesday? So means after that, do we have any office hour?
Wednesdays.
Huh?
It was the day of the test.
It was just before this.
Yeah.
You mean today or next week?
Or on like the day of the test.
Oh, the day of the test.
Yeah. Like
That's a good question. Yeah, this is actually just
day.
general. So it would be, yeah, of course, they wouldn't be in the office hour. Okay, that's a good catch. Okay, so now, before I go back to the iterator pattern and the other one, I would like to start a new lecture. This will be a short one, but I found it quite necessary. Because I found many of you actually getting confused with the syntax of writing implementation versus writing contracts. So I think that this is something that you really should know well. Yes?
Sorry, before we start, I just want to ask, what's the format of the midterm going to be?
Yes.
It's a written test, and I can tell you that they most likely there wouldn't be any like a definition type question. For example, define uniform access principle question. That can actually make my life harder because I have to read through the paragraph and to make sure you get it exactly correct. I think most likely, well, actually, you will be asked to write code, that's for sure. So syntax is very important. So any mistakes I mentioned in this lecture here, if you got it wrong, there will be no mercy. Okay? I'm trying to make myself mean so that you can really take it seriously, right? Okay, so back to the formats. So I think that there will be questions, maybe I would say, implement the iterator pattern on this particular problem. And then I would say, I'll give you a fragment of code, and I say, this design here violates the information hiding principle. First question, why? Second question, how do you improve that? Give me a new design. And then also, for example, let's say if I ask you to apply the iterated pattern, I may ask you to draw the bond diagram for that. Right? I actually already gave you the bond diagram, so all you have to do is understand the stuff, try to redraw it by your hands, and that's it. And let me see, yeah. And everything that I said in the video could be on the written test. So that's why I can extend the office hours if you have any doubts. So you can just drop by or put questions on the board. Yeah, I think it would be reasonable. I'll actually talk, there's something very important I forgot to show. The previous slide, yeah, just to remind you actually. That's very important. Agenda, and then you will be show. So it's a PDF. Okay, since we are learning software design, and what's the most important concept in this course? It's on the contracts. So there's a contract due for your midterm. All right? So this will be a software design, phase 311, and you will be the student taking the midterm, and I'm showing you the pre and post conditions for the midterm. Okay? So the post condition can be, you can get any grade. Well, given that if you satisfy all the preconditions, I can almost be sure you can pass the midterm. I mean, getting more than maybe greater than or equal to C plus up to A plus. The only thing I didn't specify in the precondition is how well have you digested the materials. That's actually very important because watching all the videos, reading all the slides, reading all the notes wouldn't guarantee, in general, that you will get a high grade. But please, that's why I actually try to make myself available as much as possible, so you can ask questions and clarify your confusion. So you gotta make sure lectures, tutorials, lab exercises, supplement notes, and also some very limited assigned sections in the touch of class. If you got all of these done, then I cannot think of any reason you wouldn't do well. Unless you deliberately did bad. That's the only reason I can think of. Okay, so I'll give you more guide on the study next week. This slide is going to tell you to actually somehow to categorize the syntax for writing implementation and syntax for writing contracts. So it's very important for you to pay attention because it also saves time later on when you do programming in IFO. So now in IFO, we actually have different notions of contracts and implementations. They are completely different notions, right? So for implementation, so this might be what you are used to up to the course start. So there are step-by-step instructions, so that's the keywords I keep mentioning so far in the course. You have to be able to distinguish between instructions and expressions. I'll give you an example about this general principle. Instructions, usually they have side effects, which means they will change the states of your system. Let's say in the account class, if you actually have the instructions to actually assign the balance to be the O balance plus 1. So that's one instruction. On the other hand, for the Boolean expressions for contracts, so here we say they have no side effects in the sense that if you try to evaluate your contracts, they would not modify the current state of the system. That's why they're side effect free. That's the first important thing you have to know. So implementation change the attribute values. On the other hand, contracts do not. They only use the values for evaluation to return either true or false for the contracts. Okay, and if you want to draw some analogy, so the implementations are more like commands, which means they do not return anything, and they will change something. On the other hand, contracts are like queries. They should not change anything but return something, like a true or false. Okay, so now if you look at the code here, we have a clause, just to make it more concrete. So we have a count, so we have some query here because balance returns something, and also we have to draw in a command because it doesn't return anything. And we have, so you can see that I make it general in the sense you can see require some expression 1, do some instruction 1, ensure some expression 2. So you can see, and similarly, we have expression 3 as the precondition for withdrawal, and the postcondition for withdrawal, etc. So I'm saying, for all these places for the expressions, they are the contracts. So this should require some one category of the syntax that I'm going to show you. On the other hand, where I show the instructions, those are the places where you should use another category of syntax to specify your syntax. If you mix the categories, most likely you will get some compiler error, which many of you already showed me during the lab session to office hour. Okay, so far so good. So now I'm going to give you a series of common mistakes, okay, to really remind you, try not to make any mistake again. Yeah.
Is those two balance and withdrawals all implementations, or there is contract?
The balance here is actually a query. And so now here we actually got both the contracts and implementation for balance. You can see the require and ensure, both parts are the contracts for that particular feature. And the do block here with the instruction, that's the implementation for that particular feature. Did you get it? Yes.
I under between every there is ensure there is a contract.
Yes, every time you have to require and ensure, there should be a contract, and also invariance.
So there is a contract information on the left hand side of both.
Yeah.
Mixed together.
Yeah. So I'm trying to show you where you should really expect contracts and where you should expect implementation. Okay? Okay, I'm going to give you examples to show you what kind of mistakes you can make. Okay, just a few more slides. So now for the implementation, usually you should give only instructions. Instructions we have, so these are the most common instructions you will get. You will get assignments using call and equal. You have conditionals, if then else, or you have the else if, as many else if as you like, as necessary. And also you have loops. You can either use the loop to walk through an array and try to do some assignments there, or you can have the loop to iterate through some linked list by using the cursor operation here. And also you have the across loop, which I showed you in the lab session last week. There was a recording for that lab session, so you better watch them. Watch that if you got any confusion. So here you can see we're using a cross with the loop. So this makes that an instruction. So you should never put any of these constructs in the context of contracts. That's the point. Okay, on the other hand, for the contracts, so all of them will return the Boolean value, either true or false. For example, you have some relational expressions here. So for example, you say a greater than 0, is that true or false? And also you can use other operators here. So you have equals, not equal. So these are for the reference equality. And you have to tell that and not tell that for the object equality. You have greater than, less than, etc. You know those operators on Java. So here we have some logical expressions using the and then will be the conjunction. And the or else will be the disjunction. Implies will be the implication, right? You can actually combine different Boolean expressions together using logical operators, right? And also the O keyword. So this is only for the post conditions, because the crucial difference between a pre and post condition is, so if you think about, let's say we're trying to do a withdrawal. Let's say withdraw 10 on some account. Okay? So now let's say currently we have ACC being a reference to some account objects. Okay, let's make it easy. We only have one attribute for balance here. Okay, let's say currently it is 20. Okay? So right before we actually execute, we call this value here to stay value. Okay? After we have executed this, we actually have basically the same layout for the objects, also balance here. But now we actually withdraw the value 10. So in this case, this value would become a post-state value. Okay? So the precondition is only going to check this value here to make sure before you call this feature, it is really valid to make that such call. However, in the post condition, it's going to take care of both sides to say, somehow I want to draw a connection between the values in the pre-state and post-state. In this case, I want to say this value here is really this value here minus this. So that's why you would see that balance equals old keyword balance. Right? So only the post condition might have the old keyword, but not in the precondition. by default, the values in the precondition world is really old already. It's not a new value, so it's redundant to have the that's why it's invalid. Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, you also have the logic qualification expression, like for all and exist, using also the cross syntax, but now you have either or some. So I think one of the confusion was, this here alone is a Boolean value. It can be either true or false. On the other hand, in the previous slide, this across here, we're using a loop. So this here does not return anything. It's actually an instruction, right? Okay, so make sure you don't get confused. Okay, so these are the normal operators you would use for the contracts or for the implementations. And now let's have a look. What's wrong with this? Yes?
The equal sign in the contract should be without the colon.
How come? What's wrong with that?
Because this is an assignment statement, and we need a statement that checks whether the new balance is equal to old balance minus.
Very good. So basically, to recap again, so this is actually colon equal is for assignment instruction, right? If you simply have colon equal, that does not return anything. So, however, in this ensure here, we are expecting some Boolean expression. So we expecting either true or false. But this currently does not return any value. It actually changes the states. Okay, very good. So, for example, this might be what you meant. Okay, very good. How about this one? Maybe you. I think you had the confusion in the lab session last Thursday, yes. What's wrong with this?
Anything after include is post-condition, it need Boolean expression.
Very good, yeah.
But a closed loop is assignment.
It's like an assignment instruction. Yeah, because you might have assignments inside the body of the loop. Okay, very good. So basically, the issue is pretty much the same as the previous one. So here you have some instruction in the context of contracts. But here, again, you also have instruction in context of contracts. So this might be what you meant, to have some for all, or exists. Okay, very good. How about this one? This one might be slightly more challenging, but this might be also quite common.
I think it's a Boolean, but it is if and then it's not. It's supposed to be an assignment.
It's supposed to be, well, yeah, there are instructions, right? So you cannot have assignments inherently. So basically, you can see that. So here, across something and then some. So this up to here is okay, because that would be a Boolean expression. However, you're mixing the Boolean expression with the instruction. So here, this guy here, if, then, else, and, that will be an instruction. So that's where the problem is. So how would you fix that? That would be a challenge for you. Actually, in this case, we're trying to say, if the current item, also we are crossing some array, let's say, some array of account, let's say. So we're saying, sorry, array of, array of account. So we're trying to say, sorry, array of integer. Array of integer. So we're saying, if the current item we are looking at is positive, that means the balance is equal to O balance minus that positive value. Otherwise, the balance stays unchanged. Let's say that's a condition we want to establish. That's basically what you meant to say by just setting the wrong syntax in iPhone. How would you say that?
Result equal to.
You mean to say equals?
Result equals.
Result equal, but there's no result here. You can see there's no return type here, so there's no result. That's a command.
Can you add and?
You mean logical and?
With the cursor item greater than 0 as a Boolean inside the balance.
How would you fix that? Say that again, I didn't quite get you.
So
I'm trying to say you still is a Boolean, we agree, very good. And here we say balance equals O balance minus cursor item, that's also Boolean, yes. How do we combine two Boolean values together?
Use and in the cursor item equal greater than 0 and.
That to say cursor dot item greater than 0 and
Yes.
okay, balance. Except for the first one. Is that what you suggested? Basically, in this case, you want to use implication because I think that it was a very good start. It was a very good try. What you just said will make the code compile, although it's still wrong. It's not really what the original code meant to say. But it's a very good step. So the problem with this is, if you, let's say, to do implication in iPhone, so you would say implies. Okay? So the same here and the same here. And you have to know the difference between these two. The difference is, to make this whole expression true, both sides have to be true. Right? And to make this expression true, if you recall your 1090, remember if you say P implies Q equivalent to not P or Q. Okay? So that means in the case where not P is actually true, then the whole implication would be true. That wouldn't be what you meant to say. So that means if currently, let's say, if the cursor of the item is actually not equal to 0, actually that's what you meant to say. Sorry. Because somehow you want to combine the two conditions together and say, if this is, so somehow this is the antecedent. If this is true, then I expect this to be true. If this is not true, then that's okay. I just have another condition to cover. Okay? However, if you have this here, that will be too strong in the sense that if this is currently, let's say, if currently cursor of the item is less than or equal to 0, then we should really go to this branch here, right? However, that part being false would make this false and make the whole thing false. Okay? So that's why I say it's too strong. You got to think about that yourself. Okay? So the correct fix would be this. You would say cursor of the item larger than 0 as the antecedent here, and the negation of that, which would be less than or equal to 0. That implies the corresponding consequence. And then you will conjoin them together using a logical conjunction. Okay? I already posted a slide, so you can save some writing. Okay? That's also some important thing for you to know.
So it means at first, if there is and, then the first one is false, and the ensure will not pass. All right.
No.
If you use and
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you use the and here, that means if you run into any case where it is actually less than or equal to 0, you make the whole thing false. Yes.
Could you just re-explain that a little?
This part?
Yeah,
You mean here or there?
like how, the if statement becomes that.
Okay, sure. So basically, you can see that what we're trying to do is, what you meant to say here is, we are walking through an array of integers. Okay, integer might be either positive or negative. If, so let's say negative, positive, and etc. Okay? So we are saying that if the current value that you're looking at, it could be -1, it could be 2. If it is -1, they will go into this branch here because it's not greater than 0. That's the opposite of greater than 0. In that case, the balance should remain the same as the old balance. Okay? And in this case, it is saying if it is greater than 0, then you should go to this branch here. But somehow we want to make sure for each iteration, it's either this is true or the negation is true. Either way, it cannot be both. There's no number that can be larger than 0 and also less than or equal to 0 at the same time, right? So either one is true. So the reason that we choose implication is, in case if this antecedent is actually false for the current number, which, well, because you got to be either true for one and false for the other, right? So you can see that, so let's say if currently the number is positive, that means it will satisfy this premise here, but it will fail this premise. But that will make this implication here, because false implies anything, that will be true, right? Let's say for the second iteration here, let's say we have a negative number, then this will make this premise false, and false implies anything, the whole thing will be true. And true and anything would be just that thing there. Right? So, good. Think about this example yourself. I think that this might be as complicated as you might get into for your projects or assignments. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, what about this one? That was somewhat different. Maybe someone from the back? What's wrong with this?
The old balance minus A, they can't be true. This is always true, I think.
Hmm?
The old balance minus A is always true, I think.
What do you mean it's always true? O balance minus A, what's its type? Yes.
There's no body expression.
Okay, let me ask you one thing. So here you can see that in the ensure clause here, you do expect some Boolean value, true or false. What's the return value here? What's the type of the value of this O balance minus A? Just integer, right? So integer itself is not a Boolean type. So this is actually incompatible. Okay? So you're expecting some Boolean expression here, but you're giving an integer expression. That's why you have some mismatch. So what you meant to say might be something like this. You might want meant to say balance is equal to O balance minus A, or you want to say O balance larger than 0. So this would be okay. Okay? Okay, how about this one?
Like, you can erase the old
How come?
because this is the post, is a precondition, so the old is useless.
Okay, agree? Okay, remember, you only use the O keyword to specify the connection between the pre and post states in the post condition. But in a precondition, you only worry about pre states. That's why you don't need the O keywords. Yes? This wouldn't, because that's, you cannot use O in the precondition. Yeah, that's why I said it's an error. Yeah. Okay, this might be what you meant, so you can just say balance. Yes?
So some in the ensure clause, you have like ensure
To, for example, this guy here. Yeah, so you can see that, you can certainly do that because you can see I said for quantification expression, you can use all or some, either way. Yeah, here you got two options for you. Okay, so let's see one more. What's to be more? Okay, that might be what you meant, and this actually repeated what I just said. Please read it over. Okay, so now so far is the common mistakes for contracts. So please be reminded, don't make the mistakes again. Now, common mistakes for incrementation. What's wrong with this? So now, notice that we are now in the do block for incrementation.
No, I mean, it's a statement, but it's not like, it's just.
You see that, so this is actually Boolean, and then Boolean expression. Okay, by the way, the tricky thing is, notice this, you cannot put instructions in the context of contracts. However, there are cases where you can put Boolean expressions in the instructions. This is one possibility, okay? Provided that you correctly capture the value and use them well. For example, this might be what you meant. So somehow, so let's say here, yeah, actually, I'll give you an example maybe in the later error. So in this case, the assignment may be what you meant, okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So was the other one actually not?
Yes, yes, because in Java they actually mix. Oh, actually in Java, yeah, somehow they. Because actually that's inherited from C. If you do assignments, you're going to return the value that's being assigned. But there's no such thing in iPhone.
So this one they will fail for
You will
compatibility.
fail.
But you said in the implementation they might have some like the
Expression.
booleans.
Yeah, I'll show you an example. Like in this case, no. Because this expression here returns Boolean, but you need something to capture that to make it in instruction. Okay? Okay, we'll see the example, don't worry. Okay, so recap what I just said. So call it equal will be maybe what you meant to say here. How about this? Yes. That's okay.
You can't use all, you need to use loop because it's return type.
It's a
It's a
Boolean, right?
Boolean, sorry.
Okay, very good. So either maybe what you meant to say was is, well, even if you change this to be a loop, you still wouldn't compile. Because if you change this to be a loop, then your loop statement you expect to see instructions, right? And this guy here is actually a Boolean expression, right? But that's okay, that's a good start. Maybe what you meant to say was, let's say we have a local variable here to check to see all the values are positive. And here, this is exactly as before, that returns a Boolean, and we actually use something to capture that using the assignments. So this is the case you can have some Boolean expression in the instruction, provided you use that correctly.
What's the across?
What's across? You better go back to languages for that.
Is the meaning of the keywords across.
Well, so across, I think to make it short, that's a way for you to iterate through iterable objects. You should really refer to the tutorial video in the labs. Okay? I guarantee you something about across will be in the midterm. You don't have to wait until next Wednesday. That's something I can guarantee. Okay? Okay, good. How about this? This might be a little bit trickier, but it's not too bad. How about this?
That's the Boolean expression. You can assign. Actually, sorry, that's an implementation. You can assign that implementation to balance.
So, okay, very good. So at the top level, this is actually some assignments I'm trying to do. So balance is an integer. So if I try to assign something to balance, it has to be some integer expression, right? However, the right-hand side of the assignments here is actually an instruction, a loop instruction, so it doesn't return anything. Okay, that's what's wrong with that. Would it work if I change this to all or some?
Yes, it will not work.
Why?
Because you still doing the instructions after that.
No, if I change, let's say if I change this loop to all.
Yeah, you do all, then you have the assignments there after that. You can.
Oh, very good, very good. Okay, very good. I didn't notice that. Let's say you change this to all, and then you change this to be equal.
Then it will.
You think?
Oh, wait.
Aha, good. You wouldn't, well, yes?
Because balance is a fixed integer, so it won't work because it returns a Boolean.
Very good, very good. Okay, let me recap what we just said here. So if you simply change this to be all, then the whole thing will be an instruction. Oh, sorry. If I change this to all, the whole thing should be a Boolean, but now you're mixing the Boolean expression with the instruction, so that's not good. Even though you change this, assign colon equal to equals, the whole thing will be Boolean. The cross part is okay. However, if you try to assign some Boolean to some integer, that's not okay. All right? All right, so that's how you fix it. Okay, good. Okay, that's it.
Doesn't work this one.
Oh, okay, because you can see that now we have an assignment here. So you have the left-hand side, you have the right-hand side. The right-hand side must be a value of type that's compatible with the type of the left-hand side. The left-hand side now is actually a balance of type integer. So the right-hand side should be an expression of type integer as well. But here you can see you have a loop instruction here, and as I said, loop instructions do not return anything. They are simply they can stand alone. Yeah.
So what is the return value of the whole across statement?
The whole across is Boolean.
I mean the return value, true or false?
True or false?
Is true or false?
You mean the actual value?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Don't worry about the actual value. This is not for you to. Well, I only want to show you syntax actually, like what compile, what does not compile. Somehow the example may not make much sense.
So when you're using a loop as the keywords, the whole return value of the Boolean expression is meaningless?
No, if you use the loop, then the whole thing does not return anything. The whole thing is simply an instruction.
But it's still a Boolean expression.
No, it's not. So in this case, because you're using a loop, so that's almost like an assignment you put here. So that does not return anything. So that's why you cannot assign nothing to balance. Yeah, that's the reason. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. If no, then I'm going back to the iterator pattern. Now, you have to be very, very cautious about this because let me show you this slide again. So this is the slide where we talk about implementations, and so you have three ways to write your loop. So typically you have 3 ways. So you can use a from until loop instruction here, and you can iterate through some array, you can iterate through some list, and here this is another way to write a loop. You can see in all the cases you have loop. So in these cases, they are the implementation instructions, which means they should stand alone without returning anything. Okay? You have some left-hand side, you have some right-hand side. This part must be expression. You must return something for you to assign to, for you to assign from, actually. And this part can be a variable, can be an array index, etc. Okay, on the other hand, here you can see in this across expression here, we do not have loop. We have only either or some. Both cases will give you a Boolean expression that does return something. That's why you may want, sometimes you can actually use this expression here as the right-hand side for the assignments. Yeah. Okay? All right, this is already online, so you can go over them again to make sure you're really convinced. Okay, so let's go back to our iterated pattern. Okay, I actually added some details from last time, so you may want to re-download the slides to get more detail, on implementing the iterated pattern. Okay, so we talked about the iterated pattern. So this is the motivation here because we have no information hiding from the supplier side. So the client can actually rely on the implementation sequence, rely on something that should have made a sequence in the supplier side. So that's why if you change the implementation from array into a linked list, the client code will suddenly stop to compile because you haven't done information hiding properly. Okay? That's the motivation for the iterated pattern. We want to make it in such a way that the supplier can safely hide the secrets about how they implement the orders. But meanwhile, the supplier can make their class iterable so that the clients can have a generic way of iterating through the collection of orders without worrying about whether the orders are stored in an array, a linked list, or hash table, or etc. That's the basic idea for iterated pattern. That's the diagram for showing the architecture. I actually gave you some handouts from last time. So for example, in the test, I could ask you to first implement the iterated pattern and then draw me the diagram that shows how your design reflects the iterated pattern. Okay, that's the architecture we have gone over. And we actually have, in last week's lab session, we show you on this slide of clients how we can write the across syntax to write both the contracts and the implementation. We have covered that already. And if you are not sure about this, watch the video. There was a recording for that. And now for the supplier side, so this is some detail I would like to add this time. So there are 2 cases for the supplier, 2 cases. One, straightforward, the other one much more challenging. The straightforward case is if somehow the supplier secret implementation comes from some library class in iPhone, let's say array, linked list, or array list. For those classes, they are already iterable, which means they already have an implementation for a new cursor. So in this case, it's straightforward. You simply don't have to implement a new cursor feature yourself. That's a simple case. In a much more challenging case, let's say in the case of the generic book from your previous exercise, also the tutorial video. Remember in the generic book, we actually have, let's say we have the implementation for one array of the names, string names, the other array for all the records, right? So now we actually have 2 arrays for the clients to iterate through. However, in this case, we don't have any new cursor feature defined in the library of iPhone to walk through 2 arrays at the same time. We do have the new cursor feature for 1 array, but not for 2 arrays. So that's why in this case, in your case, you have to also implement this side for the iteration cursor. That's why it's much more challenging. Okay? So please watch the video. I actually show you both in the video. Okay, so this is what I showed last time. So this may not make too much sense until you actually see some example. So after you see the example, you can actually use this as a summary list before the midterm, just in case you actually got asked to implement the iterator pattern. So we have two cases, the simple one and a much more challenging one. Okay, now in the simple case, so let's say in the shopping cart example. So now cart is actually a supplier we would like to make iterable. So that's why we say inherits from iterable. And in this case, because we know already that the supplier is going to store a collection of orders. So in this case, that's why we instantiate the G of iterable by just order. That's why you see order here, okay? And then here, this is a new cursor feature that we inherit from the iterable class. Okay, in this case, we have to increment that. You can see the implementation is as easy as just one line, because the implementation sequence at the moment is simply an array. As I said, array is a library class that's already iterable. So you can simply call the new cursor feature from the array, and it will just work automatically. So the implementation is simply as easy as this. Okay, that's a simple case. Now the much more challenging case is the new cursor, you simply don't have this new cursor from your implementation sequence. So you actually somehow, you have to implement yourself to say how you can support a new cursor feature yourself. Okay, so now this is a much more challenging case. So remember we have the generic book from our tutorial on the generic parameter, right? So now, remember generic parameter takes the parameter G, which can be instantiated by any other type from the client side. It can be a date, it can be a birthday, it can be a phone number, it can be any type. Okay, in this case, we have to say iterable, okay? And here we are using a new syntax for you, a new type. So we call it tuple. I also explained this in detail in the tutorial, so you're also supposed to follow. So basically, tuple is simply just a pair. Okay, so we're trying to say, for example, you might have Jeremy, and then we have some birthday, let's say 1970, and then April 20th. Okay, this is one possible tuple. Okay, simply a pair. That's how you do it. So we are trying to say when the client is actually going to iterate through the generic book, each item is going to be of type tuple, which is like a pair of the name and also the collection, the record. Because record at the moment is actually parameterized by the G, so we don't know what it should be yet. Okay, so the tuple is new. Please watch the video for details. And so we have tuple like a pair of the name and the record. Okay, so now the new cursor feature you can see is now more complicated. So you can see now we also have iteration cursor. You can see we also have a return some tuple for each item here. And now we have a new class called my iteration cursor. So this is something you have to write yourself. You simply do not get it for free from the library class, because now the implementation sequence is actually two arrays together rather than just one single array. That's why you can see why we actually have to use a tuple, because for each iteration from the client side, they want to see one element from the name and one element from the records. That's why we are using a tuple for each element. So here we're going to see how you implement the my iteration cursor. And so here you can see that in my iteration cursor class, apparently we have some make feature. And this make feature is to initialize the internal cursor by using the implementation's details here, names and records. Okay? So now, in this case, we have two slides for the implementation, the supplier. So now we are now in the implementation for my iteration cursor here. So my iteration cursor also has generic parameter G, okay? And here we have, so it has to inherit from iteration cursor. Let me show you the architecture diagram. You can see now we're doing this part here. So that's the iteration cursor that my iteration cursor inherits from. Okay, we're doing this side here. Okay, so now, so we have to say it returns some tuple of string and G, and also initialize the internal cursor using names and records. And the most important thing to note is, as soon as we inherit from iteration cursor, you have to implement all the three features here, item, after, and fourth. So this would be what the clients have to use in order to walk through your collection without worrying about what the secrets are, either they are arrays or linked lists, etc. So to actually implement this, I suggested in the tutorial that in the case of two arrays, you can maintain some cursor position attributes that's also hidden, of course. To say, initially, the cursor position should be in the first position in the array. So think about this. So let's say we have two arrays here. Okay, so let's say this is names. This is records. Okay, let's say we have, I'll just say put A. And then some birthday, I'll just say October 20th. I think two records should do. Let's say September 15th. Okay, so now, initially, the cursor position should be lower of both arrays, right? Okay, so that's initially the position. Cursor position. Okay, that's initially the case. Now, what should happen? What should be the implementation for fourth? Yes.
Cursor position equals cursor position plus one.
Yes, just move it to the right, right? Very good. What about for, let's say, for after? Okay, somehow for the after, that means, is there currently no elements anymore for you to look at? So, if the cursor position is around here, that means there's no more to be looked at. So, this position here is actually, for example, records upper. Right? Remember we have lower and upper for the arrays. So in this case, after to be defined as if the current cursor position value is greater than records the upper. That would do.